The wind howled beneath the old bridge, carrying the scent of rain and rust. A boy named Eli sat there, clutching a torn backpack, watching the city lights flicker across the river. He was only 16, but his eyes carried years of pain. 3 nights ago, he had run away from home. His father, a preacher, had shouted that Eli was a disappointment, and Eli had screamed back words he could never take back. He hadn't meant to, but he'd broken something fragile between them: trust. Now, with no money and nowhere to go, he felt completely abandoned. God doesn't care about people like me, he muttered bitterly. From the shadows, a voice answered, soft but clear. You're wrong, son. He's never stopped watching. Startled, Eli turned. An old man stood at the edge of the bridge, wrapped in a tattered coat, his hands warm around a small lantern. The light flickered golden against the darkness. Who are you? Eli asked. Just a traveler, the old man said. But I've been where you are. Angry, lost, certain that no one could forgive me. Eli stared, confused. Then what happened? The old man smiled gently. Someone forgave me anyway. The rain began to fall, light at first, then heavier. The stranger handed Eli the lantern. Hold on to this, he said. It won't last forever, but it'll help you see the next step. Eli hesitated but took it. The glass felt warm, like it was alive. When he looked up again, the old man was gone. Only the echo of his voice remained. When you can't find your way home, start walking toward the light. Eli looked at the lantern. In the stormy dark, its flame glowed steady, small, but enough. That night, for the first time since he left, Eli whispered a prayer he barely remembered how to say. If you're real, please don't give up on me. The next morning, Eli woke up shivering beneath the bridge. The lantern beside him had gone out, but the glass was still warm. He wondered if the old man had really been there, or if the cold had played tricks on his mind. His stomach growled. He hadn't eaten in 2 days, so he wandered into town, looking for scraps behind a row of shops. The smell of fresh bread drifted from a small bakery at the corner. Grace's oven. Eli peeked through the window. Inside, a woman in her 50s kneaded dough while humming an old hymn. Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. Eli froze. His mother used to sing that song before she passed away. The melody cut through his hunger, right into his heart. He didn't mean to, but tears welled in his eyes. The woman noticed him standing outside, wet and trembling. Without a word, she walked to the door and opened it. Come in, dear, she said gently. You look like you need something warm. Eli hesitated. I don't have money, she smiled. I didn't ask for any. Inside, the air smelled of cinnamon and kindness. She handed him a loaf of bread, still steaming. Sit down, eat. As Eli ate, she noticed the lantern hanging from his backpack. That's a beautiful light, she said. Where did you get it? A man gave it to me last night, Eli replied quietly. Said it would help me see my next step. Her expression softened. Then I think it already has. You're safe here. Eli looked around. The cross above the counter, the warmth of the fire, the woman's peaceful smile. For a brief moment, he felt like he'd found something he didn't know he was looking for. Before he left, she placed her hand on his shoulder and said, God doesn't bring people to our doors by mistake, Eli. Remember that. He stared at her, surprised. How do you know my name? She smiled faintly. He told me once, long ago, to never forget it. That night, Eli stayed in the small storeroom behind Grace's bakery. She had given him a blanket and a Bible, old, worn, its pages filled with handwritten notes. Read it when you can't sleep, she'd said. But Eli couldn't. Each time he opened the book, he saw his father's angry face, heard the echo of his own shouting, I don't want your God. I don't want your sermons. The guilt felt heavier than the storm outside. He sat up, staring at the little lantern. Though its flame had died, the glass still glowed faintly in the dark. It reminded him of something his mother once told him before she died. Even when you stop believing, he keeps believing in you. Eli clenched his fists. If that's true, he whispered, why did you take her away? The words fell into silence, but from the bakery's main room, he heard soft humming. Grace's voice again, singing the same hymn. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. Eli's tears came without warning. He had run so far trying to escape his pain, but somehow it had followed him, or maybe it had led him here. He opened the Bible again, randomly. His eyes fell on a verse underlined in blue ink. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Psalm. Eli closed his eyes. For the first time, he whispered, if you're really near, please show me. And at that very moment, the lantern flickered back to life. Eli gasped. A small, steady flame glowed inside it again, though he hadn't touched it. The light danced softly on the walls, illuminating the open Bible. He didn't understand how, but something inside him shifted. A tiny warmth in the cold space of his soul. Not peace yet, but a beginning. That night, Eli fell asleep with the Bible open on his chest and the lantern's glow resting quietly beside him, like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. Miles away, in a quiet parsonage on the hill, Pastor Samuel knelt beside his bed, hands trembling. It had been 3 days since Eli disappeared. Every prayer he tried to speak broke halfway through. I told him he was a disappointment, he whispered, voice cracking. What kind of father says that? His wife had passed years ago, and Eli was all he had left. But Samuel had let his pride, his anger, and his grief become louder than his love. He opened his Bible, the same one he used to read to Eli as a child. Between the pages, a small drawing fell out, a child's sketch of a man holding a lantern beside a bridge. Eli had drawn it years ago. Samuel stared at it for a long time before whispering, Lord, if there's still a way, please guide him home. Even if it's not to me, let it be to you. That night, Samuel dreamed of the same bridge in the picture, only now it was real. Rain poured down, and beneath the bridge stood Eli, holding a glowing light. A voice spoke from the darkness. Go to him before the light fades. Samuel awoke with tears streaming down his face. He knew what he had to do. The next morning, he packed a small bag, put on his worn coat, and started walking toward the city. Every mile was a prayer, every breath a confession. Meanwhile, in the bakery, Grace was sweeping the floor when she noticed Eli sitting quietly by the window, carving something into a piece of wood. What are you making? She asked. He looked up shyly. A cross, like the one my dad wears. I used to hate it. Now I think I understand why he held it so tight. Grace smiled gently. Love often hurts before it heals, child. But when it heals, it shines brighter than before. Eli nodded, still carving. He didn't know it yet, but his father was already on his way, following a trail of prayers, and maybe, just maybe, the light of a small lantern. It was just before sunset when Eli decided to leave the bakery for a walk. The air smelled of wet grass after the morning rain, and the sky burned orange behind the city's roofs. He followed the road down toward the river, the same one that had once been his hiding place. The bridge stood silent, its stones glistening from the rain. He carried the lantern in his hand, still burning softly, though he had never refilled it. When he reached the middle of the bridge, he stopped. The water below reflected the light, like liquid gold. Maybe this is what faith is, he murmured, walking when you can't see the end. A faint voice behind him answered, or walking back when you know you've gone too far. Eli froze. He turned around slowly. There, standing at the far end of the bridge, was his father. His coat was soaked from travel, his eyes red from sleepless nights. Neither spoke for a long time. The sound of the river filled the silence between them, the same river that once divided them. Finally, Samuel took a step forward. "Eli," he said softly, "I'm sorry." The boy's throat tightened. "You're sorry? I yelled at you. I ran away. I said I didn't want God." Samuel shook his head. "And I said things a father should never say. I let my pride speak louder than love." They stood a few feet apart, both trembling, not from cold, but from everything that had broken between them. Then Eli lifted the lantern. "He gave this to me," he said, voice cracking. "Said it would show me the next step." Samuel smiled through tears. "Then take it, son. Let it lead us both home." Eli took one hesitant step forward, then another. The lantern's light stretched across the bridge, glowing between them like grace made visible. When they finally embraced, the flame flared brighter, so bright it seemed to chase the dusk away. In that moment, neither of them spoke. They didn't need to, because forgiveness had already said everything. The walk home was quiet. Neither father nor son spoke much. They didn't need to. The lantern in Eli's hand swung gently, casting a golden trail behind them as the night deepened. When they reached the small parsonage, everything felt both familiar and new. The old wooden cross above the door gleamed faintly in the moonlight, like it had been waiting. Samuel placed his hand on Eli's shoulder. "You don't have to come inside if you're not ready." Eli smiled weakly. "I think I am." Inside, dust danced in the light. The table was still set with 2 empty plates. His father had never cleared them since Eli left. Samuel motioned toward the chair across from him. "Let's eat together again, son." They prayed before their meal, stumbling over the words, both voices shaking. When they finished, Samuel whispered, "Thank you, Lord, for bringing him back, and for teaching me how to love again." The next morning, as sunlight filtered through the curtains, Samuel began coughing. It started softly, then harder, until blood stained his handkerchief. "Dad!" Eli ran to him. "You need a doctor." Samuel smiled faintly. "It's just age catching up to me." But Eli saw fear in his father's eyes, not of death, but of leaving things unfinished. That night, as Samuel rested in bed, Eli sat beside him, the lantern glowing on the nightstand. "You know," Samuel said softly, "that light you carry. It's not just from a stranger. It's a reminder. The flame inside you, Eli. Don't let it die, no matter what happens to me." Eli gripped his father's hand. "You're not going anywhere." Samuel looked at him gently. "One day, every father does. But grace doesn't." The lantern flickered, its glow softer now, as if listening. Later, when Samuel fell asleep, Eli went outside. The stars stretched endless above him. He lifted the lantern toward the sky and whispered, "If you healed us once, please don't take him from me yet." The flame trembled, then steadied again. He didn't know whether it was an answer or a promise, but somehow he believed it was both. Winter came quietly that year. The trees outside the parsonage stood bare, their branches tracing gray lines against the cold sky. Inside, Eli kept watch by his father's bedside, reading scripture aloud in a soft, trembling voice. Some nights, Samuel was strong enough to speak. Other nights, he just smiled and listened. One evening, as the wind howled through the cracks, Samuel motioned for Eli to bring him the lantern. "Do you remember," he whispered, "where you found this light?" Eli nodded. "Under the bridge. A stranger gave it to me." Samuel's eyes glistened. "That man wasn't just a stranger. When I prayed for you, I dreamed of him, standing under that bridge, holding this very lantern. I think God sent him to both of us." Eli's throat tightened. "You mean?" Samuel nodded weakly. "Grace often comes through people we don't expect, but it's always him. He reached into the drawer beside his bed and pulled out a small wooden cross, carved by his own hands years ago, the same one he wore every day. "Take this, son," he said. "Let it remind you that forgiveness builds bridges no storm can destroy." Eli shook his head, tears falling. "Don't talk like that. You'll get better. You have to." Samuel smiled, the same gentle smile Eli had longed to see for years. "If I don't, promise me one thing. Keep that lantern burning, not for me, but for others who've lost their way." Eli grasped his father's hand tightly. "I promise." Samuel whispered his final prayer, voice barely a breath. "Lord, into your hands I give him, and the light you placed within him." Then, as dawn broke, Samuel's eyes closed peacefully. The lantern on the nightstand flickered once, twice, and then glowed brighter than ever before. Eli wept, not in despair, but in awe. Because somehow, in that small room filled with sorrow, he felt something stronger than grief. He felt presence, and he knew the light had not gone out. It had simply moved into him.